Okay, so today we're going to be talking about what happened in the real estate market in 2020. And there were lots of unpredictable twists and turns. I hope that this information will be helpful. And at the end, I'll be sharing with you my predictions for 2021 with regards to the market and also the different features that people are going to be looking for this year. So let's get right into it. So when 2020 began, we were really expecting, the experts were expecting that there was going to be a market correction. We were speculating that we were due or overdue rather for a market correction. However, then the pandemic hit in March and we were kind of waiting at the edge of our seat to see what was going to happen with the real estate market. And what we noticed was that some states decided to designate real estate as an essential service and some states decided to designate real estate as a non-essential service. Luckily for us in New Jersey, as realtors, we were essential services, so we continued working every day. Although we continued working, we did see that sellers, of course, and buyers were a little bit reluctant and hesitant to go out at the beginning, as was expected because many people feared and were nervous about what was going to happen with regard to the virus. So a lot of sellers pulled their homes off the market, either temporarily or indefinitely, and buyers were a little hesitant to go out. But we didn't see that last very long in terms of the buyer demand. Buyers came out in full force just a few months later, ready to buy a home and finish what they started prior to the pandemic, which was find their dream home. So we were already experiencing low inventory even before the pandemic hit. And then as the pandemic hit and we continued into the spring and summer months, those numbers dwindled even more. Sellers sometimes decided to not even relist their home after things were becoming a little bit more understood and we were following certain procedures and guidelines and safety expectations, but sellers were still nervous. So we did see record low inventory kind of stay at that rate and even dip a little bit. So we'll talk more about exactly what that looked like in a few moments. But how did the market change? So what did people start doing as the 2020 pandemic hit? We saw tons and tons of DIY. I know every time I went to Home Depot for something, the line was super long. People were building their own decks or remodeling a bathroom all on their own. And of course with YouTube, which we're here now, we're able to do a lot more. Having people come in a safe way, either outdoor renovations or indoor renovations were also increasing at the time. We saw a lot more people looking for separated living spaces. As people were working from home, the idea of a home office became reintroduced. If you didn't already have one, it was much more desired during the pandemic and is still. We wanted more outdoor space, more functional outdoor space. So we saw some people moving from more consolidated towns, cities, areas into more of a suburb type living. That's what some of our buyers were looking for as well. We saw Matterports explode. If you don't know what a Matterport is, it's when you have basically a 3D experience of a home. So you can pick and choose when you walk into the home if you want to go upstairs or to the living room or to the kitchen just by clicking a button. So you're pretending as if you're walking through the home with a Matterport, and it really helps people see homes and even sometimes purchase homes without even seeing them through these different tours. We also saw virtual tours spike. These are things that are not going to go away as the pandemic gets under control, because people really enjoy to be able to look at homes and experience home buying through the comfort of their own space and on the internet, which has obviously become a much more user-friendly environment for the real estate industry. We saw stricter lending rules. Jumbo loans were no longer a thing. Jumbo loans is when they lend more than, I believe it's $600,000 or $700,000, and so that was cut off at the knees immediately. And we saw much more strict guidelines in terms of people who might have been on unemployment, not able to get a loan, who were in the process and had already been pre-approved, and if they weren't working at the time, then they weren't able to receive that loan. So a lot more expectations and double, triple, quadruple checks on people's employment as they were getting ready to buy a home. So it was definitely a seller's market. As I've mentioned, we saw the prices of homes increase dramatically, and people were prepared to pay those prices, the pricing did not stop buyers from buying. All right, and that led us to multiple offers, which sometimes led to bidding wars. Now, that didn't happen for every single home because it really was a specific type of home that buyers, in New Jersey anyway, were looking for. They wanted homes that were already done, possibly remodeled and upgraded. They didn't necessarily want to get into a huge project. So some homes did kind of linger on the market if they really didn't fit the needs of the buyers that have been out recently. So let's get into some stats of 2020. I'll list them here for you as well so you can read along if you're more of a visual person. So the absorption rate is essentially how many months it would take for all the homes on the market at that moment to sell. Normally in a healthy market, we see about 5 months worth of inventory. During the pandemic, we saw under 3 months worth of inventory, which is why the number of homes being sold and the percentage of sold homes was increasing even though we had low inventory. And the rates for buying a home and getting a loan have been record low. In December of 2020, we saw 2.67 for a very qualified buyer for a conventional loan, which is incredible. You cannot get money any cheaper. So if you are looking for a house, even though the prices are high, you're never going to be able to see these kinds of low interest rates for an extended period of time. So it's still a good time to buy. And also in January of 2020 compared to September of 2020, we saw a significant increase, over 15% in the median sale price. So we went from about $266 in January of 2020 to $311 in September of 2020, which is just crazy. And again, people were paying that because they were eager and wanted to buy a house. So let's look at New Jersey specifically. And here we go for New Jersey, some specific things. And I'm not going to read every one of them off to you. You can kind of read through. But as you can see, New Jersey was no exception to the national stats that we saw in 2020. And one of the most significant things for me is, again, that median sale price. We went from $310,000 in 2019 to $375,000 in the fall of 2020, which is a serious and significant increase. All right, so what's going to happen in 2021? Please leave your comments below if you have some thoughts or predictions for 2021. But here is what we're seeing. If we continue to see inventory low and rates low, that will essentially determine what happens with the housing market. We're also paying very close attention to affordability. Obviously, we know that President Biden has some expectations and plans for the housing market and creating affordability within our communities so that more people can buy homes. So that, along with possible future foreclosures, is definitely going to play a role in what happens in 2021. The spring market, believe it or not, has already begun. It happens and starts just as we get into the new year in January, and listing your home now is the perfect time to get just a little bit ahead of possibly other sellers so that you can be ready for any and all buyers that are ready to buy your home. So some of the things that we'll be seeing, those trends in 2021, include just cozy vibes, people wanting to make their home really an enjoyable place to be because we are in our homes so much more often. Zoom rooms, as I said, we are looking for home offices that have this aesthetic that, like behind me, looks kind of nice and appealing in a video, and also creates space where you can drown out any of the sounds surrounding you in your home. Also, people wanted upgraded outdoor space, whether that was playgrounds for kids or fire pits and more functional outside space so they could still have people over. We definitely saw an increase in need for that. And lastly, but not least, we saw an increase in need for green and smart homes so that people could keep their house clean and safe when they were inviting others into their home, and especially for sellers so that they could maintain safety at all times. I hope you enjoyed my market update and review from 2020 and what we'll see in 2021. If you ever have any questions about buying or selling a home, please reach out anytime. I'm happy to help. See you soon and take care.